Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Great to have you here today. Excited to get into a really important health topic that, unfortunately, will affect most of us in our lifetime, if not directly us, potentially loved ones in our family or certainly in our community. And that is because by the year 2030, it is said through, I think, some pretty compelling research that 1 out of every 2 people will have cancer in their lifetime. Now, it is my opinion, though, that this is something that is preventable for the most part. And if we know what to watch out for, we're going to be far better off in terms of our not only prognosis if we were to get cancer, but also our ability to avoid it. Because as they say, it is so much easier to prevent than to cure. And of course, now that I use the cure word, I have to give you my disclaimer. I'm not here to provide any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, or medical diagnosis. What I want to be able to do is open your eyes to this whole world of natural health and healing. It's been around since 5,000-6,000 years ago with Ayurvedic medicine. It was popularized, through many parts of the world. 3,000 years ago with traditional Chinese medicine. And then, of course, just over the past hundreds to thousands of years in all sorts of different civilizations. Now, it has grown over time. We know so much more. We have a greater understanding, and we have state-of-the-art based natural health modalities as well. Some of that is called bioregulatory medicine. There's, of course, functional medicine lab testing, which we'll be talking about later in the week for heavy metals that may potentially cause cancer as well, dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. But what I want to do today is give you 10 things that I know you'll be able to reduce in your life. Maybe not take it to zero, but you're going to be able to reduce them dramatically. And with that, hopefully be able to stave off cancer in your lifetime. So let's hit it right from the top. The number one, I'm telling you right now, this increases your odds of getting cancer by 1,000+%, and that is smoking. But it's not just lung cancer, okay? It is also pancreatic cancer, and believe it or not, potentially colon cancer as well. So it's not just about getting smoke in the lungs, it's how it affects the entire body and the oxidative process that happens with. Now, again, I know that there are all sorts of anecdotal-based cases where this person lived to 100 years old smoking a half a pack of cigarettes a day. Those people exist everywhere. There are people who, survive a 20 crash pile up on the highway because they weren't wearing their seatbelt. But, the majority of the time, if you wear your seatbelt and you're in an accident at 60 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour, you're far more likely to survive. So again, if you want to play the odds, I'd recommend stopping smoking. Do not breathe in smoke in any way, shape, or form, whether it's vaping or whether it's cigarettes or it's cigars or it's pipes or whatever it might be. I can't recommend enough. Not smoking, not breathing in smoke into your lungs. And that goes for all smoke in general, right? Try to cut down your exposure to it in all ways, shapes, and form. And I will just say for everyone out there saying, well, it's a little bit healthier if you're breathing in, herbal-based smoke or whatever it might be. And sure, to a degree, right? To a degree, if you don't have chemicals inside of the filters and cigarettes and all that, and you don't have all the different toxins and chemicals inside vape and all the synthetic oils, sure, better. But that doesn't mean that breathing in smoke is ever non-carcinogenic. So smoke is carcinogenic, which means potentially leading to cancer. All right, so really important we look at that. Next up is alcohol. And I know I'm removing all the things that, a lot of people sometimes enjoy doing recreationally, and I understand and I get that. And so I also want you to know that I don't believe having a small amount of alcohol every once in a while is going to cause cancer. I've not seen that. I've seen about 2 drinks for women a week, 3 drinks for men. That seems to be about the upper limit before there starts to be a greater decline. Again, I'm just going by sharing with you the research, and we know alcohol, it creates more reactive oxygen species in the body, more oxidative damage. You're going to hear that a lot today, more free radical damage. And yes, it has been shown to cause cancer in the stomach and the esophagus and liver as well, but also it affects the whole body. So when you are drinking alcohol, you're also weakening your body's detoxification systems, you're lowering its antioxidant-based defenses, and far more. So really reduce that alcohol intake. If you are a nightly drinker, again, I can't recommend enough cutting that down to once a week, maybe twice a week. And that's it. Again, like that. Can you live to 100 plus years old without getting cancer drinking alcohol every day? You can. Again, you're just playing those odds. And I don't think that any one of us know, right? Like, I just don't know that we always know, or we're going to be the one to get it or not. What we can do, though, is prevent as many of these things, our carcinogens, as possible to lower our risk. And that's all we can ask for. All right. This is important. Omega-6 fatty acids. We've been talking a lot about this over the past few weeks. And again, if you want to go back, see previous podcasts, please do check out stevencabral.com/podcast. Lots of shows on omega-6s. Now, omega-6s are typically contained in polyunsaturated fats, some saturated fats as well. I'll talk about that a little later in the show here today. But what we want to think about is this. We need omega-6s. There's no doubt about that. We actually probably and realistically need more omega-6s than we need omega-3s. Somewhere around a ratio of 2 to 1, probably 3 to 1. I think 3 to 1 seems to be a normal ratio in nature, in more grass-fed, pasture-based products. And it seems to be that if we get 3 to 1 of omega-6s to omega-3s, and we get a lower arachidonic acid to EPA ratio, and we get what's called a 9% saturation rate of omega-3s in the blood, well, then we reduce our risk for cardiovascular disease or sudden cardiac death by like 90+%. So it's pretty amazing. So that's the power of omega-3s, but today is preventing, right? So I'm not going to talk about all the things that you should add in. What I'm talking about here today is reduce your unsaturated fats that have been oxidized coming from omega-6. So there's nothing wrong with eating nuts. There really isn't. Or seeds. Again, if you look at the literature, those seem to be protective for cardiovascular, for blood pressure, for diabetes, and for cancer. So I'm definitely not going to say remove nuts and seeds from your diet. What I'm going to say is reduce the oils, and I'll jump to that one now. That was number 6. But you want to reduce vegetable oils and a lot of polyunsaturated fatty oils. Really the only oil, honestly, the only one I can say, there's oils out there that, again, if you don't cook on a high heat, you don't really oxidize them. They're coming from a good source. They're cold pressed. They're in a dark bottle. They're organic, all of those things. I think you can get away with some things like sesame oil and a few of the others. But what I want to do is try to make your life as easy as possible in terms of the thought process. And so here's the thing. Olive oil, and maybe avocado oil, but it's not even close to olive oil. Olive oil should be the oil of choice. It really should. Go back. I'm going to link it up here today. I'll try to make it as easy as possible as well. Head on over to stevencabral.com/2573. I'll list the top 10 here today. I will also make sure that I list some previous podcasts because I was shocked to find out that olive oil actually beat out most other fats, if not all other fats for cooking as well. And it actually had nothing to do with the smoke point. So you'll want to check out that podcast because that was an eye-opener. Again, if we're looking at the research and we're really trying to be fair in terms of the science and not have dogma or preconceived notions of what it has to be. Oh, it has to be lard. It has to be coconut oil. It has to be tallow. It has to be... No, it doesn't have to be anything. Like, let's actually look at things with an unbiased mindset and let's say what is best for people and not get entrenched in, well, I said this 5 years ago, so I need to continue on with that. No, I see that so much online. And then again, I'm going to get to that with point number 9. All right. Number 4 is this. You have to avoid getting a sunburn. So that does not mean avoid getting sun. Sun and vitamin D are vitally important for preventing cancer. No doubt about it. right? But getting a sunburn is totally different, right? If your skin burns and blisters, that's creating what? Inflammation, and a large amount of it. And it's also causing damage to the skin tissue. Whenever there's damage to the skin tissue and there's inflammation, well, we could then have an exacerbation of cancer cells, and they can start to begin to multiply and not be kept in check. So, I mean, that's really what cancer is. Cancer is started off as potentially normal cells of the body that have begin to replicate unchecked and begin to grow into potentially harmful cancerous tumors or soft cancers of the blood as well, like lymphomas, et cetera. So I think it's important. Again, we need sun. I don't avoid the sun by any way, shape, or form. I don't burn easily, so for me, I don't have to wear a suntan lotion. A lot of people do. I understand that if you're going to be in the sun for quite some time. But we also have to just be aware of that it is vitally important, again, that we are getting sunlight and ideally a little bit of a tan when that allows. Obviously, if you're in New England in the winter, it's going to be real challenging to get a suntan. But again, you'll take your vitamin D in different ways. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, number 5 is this: watching out for the accumulation of environmental toxins, which finally are getting their due. Again, things always start in conventional medicine as, oh no, they don't exist, right? Leaky gut doesn't exist. Even fibromyalgia back in the day doesn't exist. Chronic fatigue syndrome doesn't exist. None of these things exist. And they're like, okay, yeah, maybe they do. Oh, okay, yeah, they do. And here's the research. Now we understand. And again, so they're on Harvard Health website. They're all over the place, that leaky gut. All of these things exist. And of course, environmental toxins have been created en masse since 1960, really, and beyond. A little bit before that, 1940s, but for sure, it started to get out of control in the 60s and beyond. So we have, what are the normal things? Well, I mean, everything from what we put on our grass, right? Pesticides on grass, pesticides on foods, those are the low-hanging fruit. There are natural alternatives to lawn treatment. You can use natural weed killers. You can use natural bug repellents. At our house, we use a natural mosquito and tick spray that's all essential oils. And again, you can find that at StephenCabral.com/podcast or StephenCabral.com/resources. And these are all just great companies that provide essential oil-based products that work really well. I mean, is it going to be as toxic and powerful as a ready Roundup? No, it's not. But again, you have to decide what you want in your life. And I don't want the chance of cancer because I might have a couple weeds. And so we have to just weigh what we feel is best for us, of course. And so then there's things like tap water. If you're not using a filter and you're just saying, well, my city says my water's clean, I think that's a little troublesome because you never find out until it's too late. I mean, really, no one ever finds out until it's too late. People are like, well, it might start to get bad in a couple of weeks. No, I mean, you end up with lead in your water. Already we know that there's chlorine and there's fluoride in the water. And you might say, well, yeah, those things we have to have, or at least chlorine because it kills bacteria. I don't disagree. I don't disagree that killing harmful bacteria is good for us. But the problem is then we drink the chlorine and that affects our gut bacteria, which then affects our immune system. So all I recommend is much simpler things. Again, buy organic whenever you can. Follow the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. We'll try to link that up for you. Get a water filter. I have a lot at StephenCabral.com/resources, best companies there. And then just be careful of heavy metals in a lot of the cosmetics, the makeup, the bath products. So if we can avoid those, and kitchen cooking utensils as well. Be careful with the aluminum pans and spatulas. And I think you're going to be doing okay. You really will. So those are the main areas. There's things that you use all the time that you want to watch out for the most. All right, number 6 is this. Vegetable oils, which I kind of mentioned with those omega-6s, and corn oils, highly, highly inflammatory. Again, I went over those, so I'm not going to touch on it too much here right now, but we want to be very careful that we're just staying away from our canola oils and our vegetable oils and our soy oils. Whether it's in your food or you're cooking with them, just stay away. That's the biggest thing. Refined sugar, I don't want you to be afraid of fruit. I don't want you to be afraid of berries, but refined sugar, candies, all sorts of different treats, and that includes the alcohol mixers as well, the fruit juices. Avoid those, not at all costs, because there are things worse than them, but avoid them for sure. If you want some, instead of fruit juice, have fruit, right? You might have 1 apple, but you would never drink, or you would never consume 4 apples, most likely in one sitting, which would be about the equivalent of a 8 to 12 ounce glass of juice. So we always want to keep it as nature may have intended, and that would be a piece of fruit rather than a full glass of juice. That includes kids as well. Kids can eat the fruit, no need really for the fruit juice whatsoever. All right, number 8 is our refined carbohydrates. So again, we're gonna pick on fats, we're gonna pick on proteins, we're gonna pick on carbs, because all of them are healthy. Healthy fats, healthy proteins, healthy carbs. But pastries and chips and cookies and crackers and anything that is processed is most likely not ideal. Now, I know there's obviously healthier ones. There's some companies that make great root vegetable-based flours, nut-based flours, if you're into those. They're gonna be a little bit healthier. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, do we really need to increase our processed carbs when 2/3 of the population have a less than ideal BMI? And if you have a BMI higher than a 24.9, and yes, I know it correlates to waist-hip ratio and body fat, but again, for the majority, 99% of people, it matters. You're more likely to get cancer. And so what I want to do is just make sure we're not spiking our blood sugar, or we're not, creating higher levels of insulin or insulin resistance. And so we do watch what we eat. That's important. All right. So we tackled fat, we tackled carbohydrates. Now let's tackle meat. So we have to be careful because, to our knowledge right now, the higher the intake of meat and the higher the intake of saturated fats, and I can already hear all the alarm bells going off right now, the literature says the higher increased rates of cancer. So greater than 19% intake of protein, higher likelihood of cancer, okay? You can be related to IGF-1, it can be related to a lot of things. Higher increase of saturated fats, higher incidence of cancer, and pretty much all causes of mortality. Now, I agree with you, all the people out there that are sounding the alarm bells. Well, this wasn't done on grass-fed meat. It wasn't done on pastured chicken, pastured eggs. I'm not disagreeing with that. So I'm not disagreeing with it. What I am agreeing with is levels of that. So if some meat is good, is a lot of meat better? And I think that if you're keeping an open mind and you're being unbiased, I think the answer would be no. Now, will more meat help you transform your body to a greater degree in terms of muscle? Yes. So for sure, right? But there's a big difference, a chasm between body transformation and longevity and not getting cancer. I just want you to know they're mutually exclusive goals. They really have nothing to do with each other. But you're going to do things for body transformation that you would never do for longevity, and vice versa. So I try myself to find a happy medium. I really do. So I try not to take in too much meat. I try to just have it once a day. Again, no processed meats. So stay away from the bacons, the bologna, all the different processed meats, and be careful when you're grilling meat that you don't create a lot of that smoke, the char, which is the acrylamides. That is absolutely a carcinogen. I know we all enjoy it. Many people do, but we have to be careful with that. All right, and the last one here today is trans fats. That's a lot of fried foods. So donuts, used to be Oreos. Now they say they're trans fat free. I don't know about that. They're certainly not health-based foods. But even some frozen foods and other items like that can have trans fats in them. So if you ever see trans fat on the label, you want to make sure that you're staying away. If you see things that a lot of times it says hydrogenated, you want to stay away. A lot of coffee creamers can have trans fats in them. So the main goal is to always get as close as you can to nature. Eating a whole food diet, if it comes from a box or a bag, it's suspect, right? So doesn't mean it's going to be bad for you, but it's something that we want to really look at. I do believe in some conveniences, like there's nothing wrong with that. But we want to say, hey, does this come from whole food? Is it as clean as possible? And a total accumulation in a week, how am I doing? Because it all really does come back to the rain barrel effect, right? It's like if you're doing very little of these things, then every once in a while, it's probably going to be no big deal, unless you have cancer, right? And so that's a different story. But if you don't have cancer, you're a healthy individual, once a week you have some alcohol, probably no big deal. Once a week you go out for a steak, probably no big deal, right? Like it's every once in a while, no big deal. But when we do these all the time, they begin to add up. They overflow the rain barrel. That inflammation may lead then to metastasis of cancer. So I want to make sure that you're staying safe, that your family's staying safe, and that we're all out here just trying to help each other. So hopefully this was helpful. Of course, if it was, do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everybody. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.